Last night from the Vamps. Now, earlier on we were talking about, obviously, the recent floods over the winter months in particularly New Brighton, West Kirby, and what have you. And with spring on its way, the recent sunny spell may have put some of us to presume that the flood risk from earlier on this year and back in the last year is behind us. But scientists have warned that groundwater levels have reached a point where so much water is soaked through the soil, the risk of flooding could still remain high until May, which is really surprising. The aftermath of the flood saw insurance claims rocket, and if any more damage occurs for those already affected, it's imperative that claimants account for all the damage from clothes to carpets, electrical goods, furniture. And insurance claims have never had to be so accurate as they do now, because let's be honest, you used to say, oh, it was me clothes. But now you literally have, because of the amount of claims. So joining me on the phone this morning and from SBS Insurance is Tony Parks. Very good morning to you, Tony.
Yeah, good morning, Tony.
Before I put a question to you, Tony, you're familiar with the area where we are.
Yeah.
Now, New Brighton, Leeso, West Kirby, Morton, all suffered severe flooding. I'm surprised at because you know Oxton and around that area.
Yeah, I think the whole area around there, even like Hoylake and as you go over to most of the Wirral, has suffered very severe weather, not just flooding over the last year. It's been bad winds and bad storm damage, and what we're seeing is that climate change is impacting the way that we all live our lifestyles.
But what's actually been the cost of the recent flooding, though, Tony?
Well, we always talk, and insurance companies always talk about the cost in terms of financial terms. Yeah. But the real true cost is the sort of chaos it causes to people's lives. Now, I was talking to an individual from the New Brighton area, Michael, a few weeks ago, and he had to move home and has been out of his home for a number of months now, and he's also lost most of his sentimental possessions, a big vinyl collection. So these are the real true costs, and the impact that has on your family and what it can do to your own sort of life.
Well, it can impact on your health as well, can't it? Let's be honest. It's not just, as you say, if you've lost all your possessions, with the greatest respect to anybody who's suffered damage in the recent floods, yes, you can replace your fridge, your telly, your cooker, your settee, your beds, this. It's the photographs of your grandparents, maybe, personal possessions that are one-offs. You'll never, ever get them back again. It's these, and they hurt, and as you say, with being forced out of your home sometimes for months. You hear of people sometimes being out of their homes for nearly 12 months while it gets sorted. What can our listeners do to make sure that they get good service, Tony, with insurance?
Well, I think the first thing, Tony, is that we all look at insurance and we all find it very complicated. It's full of jargons, it's got big terms, conditions, and it doesn't reflect how we live our lifestyles. So what I'd say to customers is the first thing to do is about 6.2 million people in the UK have no insurance whatsoever. So they should actually check they've got some sort of contents insurance. And then the next step is they should sort of approach buying insurance a bit like buying a holiday, really. We all go on TripAdvisor or these other websites now and look at the hotel we're going to stay in, check the flight airlines, and make sure we get the right type of holiday for our 1 year annual break a year. Now, what I'd suggest is that if they go online and look at the sort of insurance companies which are out there, they'll see reviews, they'll see very clear sort of comments around what that insurance company provides, how it operates, and really how it's going to operate when you have a claim, because none of us think we're ever going to claim on insurance, and the reality, it does happen, as your listeners have experienced.
Well, the thing that surprised me more than anything, 25% of us are unknowingly under-insuring our possessions by as much as 30%. Now, that shortfall is only discovered when they make a claim. So how do our listeners ensure that they're adequately covering their possessions?
So there's lots of possessions in our house which we don't put a value on. Your sofa, your table, your dining room table, and ultimately you get flooded and the sofa's got a value. So you'll see in a lot of policies that they may have a maximum limit of say, £10,000. What I'd suggest to your listeners now is actually take the time to walk around the house and actually look at all their possessions and maybe make a list. Then potentially just pick up the phone, give your insurance company a call and say, this is what I've got in my home. Am I covered? And they'll give you a good response.
Insurance, let's be honest, there's a plethora of both insurance companies and comparison sites to check these out. So what will a really great insurance company service look like in the future? Will we get shut of the jargon? Will it make it easier for claimants?
So my answer to that is, 15 years ago, we never would have thought we could buy an airplane ticket, print it off at home and get on a plane. So insurance companies taking its time to adapt, but they're slowly getting there. And there's some good insurance companies out there at the moment which are actually providing apps so you can make the claim yourself. There's one insurance company there, which listeners will see online, which can actually take a photo of their engagement ring in advance, send it through to them, and in the event that that's lost or stolen, the company already knows what that ring looks like and how much it was, and they haven't got to worry at the point of claim. So I think the insurance companies are getting there, but the best thing I'd say to your listeners is go and have a look online, really think about it, and don't just buy on price.
Absolutely. Best advice I've heard for a long time, to be honest, Tony. Where can our listeners get more advice and get a little bit more help on this one?
Well, obviously listeners can look at ourselves, which is SBS Insurance. They can Google that and they'll see our Facebook and normal website. Or if they want some independent advice, they should go to the Money Advice Service. It's run by the government and it gives clear advice especially on the flooding.
Brilliant. As they always say, Ma's always right.
Yeah,
Tony,
brilliant.
Pleasure to speak to you this morning, particularly poignant issue for this part of the region, this part of the country. And Tony Parks from SBS, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the phone.
Cheers, thank you, Tony.
Cheers, take care.
Bye.